Thank you all so much for coming today. Our goal for today is to showcase a variety of careers that are possible through kinesiology. We're pleased to have our own UFB alumni as well as other professionals from our community here to share with us information on their careers, as well as what their careers mean to them and to their community. So I'd like to thank them all for being here and taking time out of their busy days to join us. We will now introduce ourselves with our name, pronouns, degree and occupation, or KINSA position, and the land on which we work, learn, and play. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that at UFB, we work, learn, and play on the land of the Stolo people. I am Samantha Stables. My pronouns are she, her. I am the KINSA president, and I work, learn, and play on the land of the Coast Salish people.
Hi everyone, I am Nafeel Arshad. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a KINSA events coordinator, and I work, learn, and play on the land of the Coast Salish people.
Hi, I am Jennifer Stables. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a kinesiologist. I do functional capacity evaluations, and I work, learn, and play on the land of the Coast Salish people.
Janelle, if you want to introduce yourself next, and then Jen, we can continue on.
Do I have to click something? Sorry.
Oh.
Do I just talk?
You're good to go. Yeah, you're not muted, so you're okay.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Janelle Scoro. I am a UFB graduate from the Bachelor of Science in Nursing program. I'm a registered nurse. I work at Stalo Health Services currently. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm very honored to work, learn, and play on the land of the Stalo people.
And hi, I'm Dr. Jen Turner. I'm a chiropractor, and I own and work at a clinic called Moveo Sport and Rehabilitation Center, and I also work with Cycling Canada. My pronouns are she, her, and I work, learn, and play on the land of the Coast Salish people. Degrees are in physical education honors, Bachelor of Physical Education, and I have a chiropractic degree as well.
All right, so we'll get started on our questions. Now we'll just go in the order, starting with Janelle, then Jen, and then Jennifer.
Awesome. So for my first question, for Janelle, what is a typical day in your work life? Basically, just give a brief explanation of what your job involves.
Okay, my job is actually quite broad. When I show up to work, I often check my emails first. There's constantly updates with regards to population and public health. So like COVID, for example, I'm always having to stay on top of what's current with that so I can relay that information to my clients. Immunizations change as well. They are always updating the manual. And then I have a phone, a work phone, so clients tend to text message me a lot. That's just the way of the world these days. And then so I connect with my clients. I might be on immunization clinic, which I do immunizations all day then for clients. Usually babies, but we do babies, school-age children, as well as elderly individuals. And so I do prenatal and postnatal home visits. So a mom who might be just came home from the hospital after a baby, I'll go to check on the baby. Sometimes we do immunizations in the home if clients can't come to us for other, barriers that they might have in their life. We do TB skin tests, TB reads, I don't even know if I've touched everything, but harm reduction, we do naloxone kits and distribution. We do a lot of health teaching. I do videos on nutrition for babies and teaching on growth and development, weight checks for moms, babies, and children. I think that covers most of it.
Awesome. That's really cool. There's a lot of things going on in your career, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Jen, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I kind of have two different roles. I work as a chiropractor in a clinic, which I own. So the owner stuff never stops. I should probably set better boundaries for myself, but there's emails all the time and dealing with practitioners and patients and reception. So that part of the job is kind of all the time. In clinic, kind of my typical day, I'm pretty slammed back to back with patients every day, leaving little time for anything else. And that's because I do have two young children at home. So I try to get the most out of my day when I'm at work. So yeah, I'm seeing patients back to back. And then at the end of the day is when I typically do my charting and my paperwork. But I also travel with Cycling Canada as a chiropractor on the road. And so my day here is much more interesting and much more variety happens here. So typically when I'm on the road, and I could be anywhere in the world, I work with the national BMX and track cycling teams. So we'd go to World Cups kind of anywhere in the world is an opportunity. So typically my days on the road start with like waking up, and I usually try to get some form of exercise in. Being around elite athletes all day is definitely inspiring and definitely makes you want to take care of yourself. And also it helps you practice what you preach. You can't tell an athlete to do their exercises or a patient to do their exercise if you aren't doing the same, I feel. So I wake up, do my exercise, then typically the team eats breakfast together. With these types of cycling as a sport is typically mostly individual in terms of placements and medals, and compared to sports like soccer, etc. So most of the life with a team is in a team environment because they support each other, they help each other, they train together. Each one of those athletes isn't going to get better without using one of the other athletes to help push them and motivate them. So we tend to do everything as a team. So we have breakfast. And usually we head to the venue that we're racing or practicing at that day. Sometimes that ride to the venue is very luxurious, and other times it's me running, carrying gallons of water, both arms, backpack, bikes, whatever. So yeah, the job of a chiropractor when you're working with a national sporting organization is not necessarily your strict chiropractic. And so this is something that I feel like a lot of practitioners wanting to get into elite sport don't know and aren't prepared for. So that's part of the job. Yeah, usually we have to set everything up, get the area all ready for the athletes. The athlete has one thing to do, and that is to perform. So essentially the staff is responsible for everything else. So setting up their chairs, their food, getting them shade, whatever it may be that they need. We just have to make everything as easy as possible for them to focus on their goal of performing. Yeah, so during the competition, my role is obviously back to a little bit more medical. So first aid, any treatment, any injuries that the athlete's been suffering with, or yeah, so I tend to those. And then yeah, during the competition, my job is just crossing my fingers, hoping nobody crashes and that I don't have to use my number one profession. And yeah, just taking care of the athletes. And then after the day of competing is when my real job again usually starts. So it's after dinner, after racing, at nighttime when everybody else is winding down. That's when my hands get to work at helping these athletes recover, prepare for the next day's competition, deal with any injuries that they've received in that day.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That sounds very loaded, but at the same time, very exciting as well. Cool. Jennifer?
Hi there. So I'm, as you know, kinesiologist, but I'm also a certified work capacity evaluator, and I am a Matheson instructor, which certifies people to do FCs. So typical day for me is I work pretty much exclusively with WorkSafe clients. So people have been injured on the job. So I'll go into one of the 5 clinics I work out of. So Burnaby, Vancouver, New West, Surrey, and Chilliwack. My main 2 clinics though are Burnaby and Surrey. But I just kind of go where it's closest for the clients. They don't have to drive as far if they're, have difficulty driving with their back injury or the knee injury or whatever it is. So I'll go in, I'll check for new referrals to see, who needs to be scheduled in. But then I'll have one client come in for the entire day. I'm just one-on-one with one person. for an entire day or a day and a half, just depending on what WorkSafe has asked. And I'll do everything we'll start with an interview, but then it's functional capacity evaluation is to figure out functionally what's their capacity, their overall abilities and limitations, and how that relates to their pre-injury job, or perhaps it's been deemed that they're unable to return to that line of work because of their injury. So they've been switched to vocational rehab. So maybe they're looking at getting retrained in a different type of job. And I'll do work simulation and everything from range of motion to dexterity to grip testing, lifting, carrying, pushing, pulling, crouching, kneeling, kind of head to toe of everything to see whether functionally that's a suitable, durable, sustainable occupation for them to change to. So I might have a construction worker who is more seriously injured. Usually I see people who've been off of work for at least a year to several years. They've already been through programs, OR programs, pain programs, they've had surgery, they've had injections and whatnot, but they've kind of plateaued at this point, but they still have symptoms. So maybe this construction worker who they're looking at retraining to be a building inspector or heavy equipment operator. But before they go through all that retraining or returning to the pre-injury job, WorkSafe just wants to make sure that they're able to do that work. And also sometimes the client isn't sure of what their actual functional abilities are because they haven't had an opportunity to try it. So basically I spend anywhere from 6 to 8 hours in a day or 8 to 10 hours over the course of 2 days, just one-on-one determining that. And then I can write my report from home. So I actually only go into the clinic when I'm seeing a client. So I could be in the clinic, 1, 2, or 3 days a week, typically a few days a week. And then I report right from home, which is nice. And then I submit the reports to WorkSafe within a week, and that client gets to hopefully move forward to a plan that they're happy with and works for them. And then the other kind of side thing I do is just once a year as the Matheson group, which is who basically certifies people to do FCs. They come in from the States to near my Surrey clinic, and I'm just one of the instructors that helps teach people how to do FCs. So that's my other, smaller role. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. On to our next question is, what population do you work with? So, if you could start
I think
off.
that's me. Yeah. I work with all ages. I work from when they're inside mom's tummy and to elderly. So I don't really have much more to share about that, but yeah, I work with all ages for various reasons.
Cool, thank you. Jen. Oh, I think you're muted right now.
Yep. Okay. I did neglect to mention that I do have an additional degree. I have a sports chiropractic fellowship, so I am certified in doing sports chiropractic. So this is hence the travel with national team, etc. So my population that I mostly work with is mostly athletes. I work with elite athletes to weekend warriors to desk jockeys who also just spend hours at a computer. I work with all sorts of different people. Obviously my training is more geared towards the active people. Yeah.
Awesome. Jennifer?
Yeah, just what I mentioned, I work primarily with WorkSafe clients. So they have to be having their injury at work. So the youngest client I think I've ever had is about 17, 18. And it goes up until probably early 70s is kind of but typically they're 30s, 40s, 50s, that type of range. But I also can work with, private insurers, or ICBC is a big one. I typically do more WorkSafe, but definitely ICBC is another population who gets a lot of FCEs.
Interesting. Thank you. Okay, on to our next question what's your impact in your current position to your company, to science, to human health? How do you impact all these things?
Yeah, I really had to think hard about this question, because I just wanted to capture it all. And what it came down to for me is it's not just a job or work for me. It's I do it because there's a relationship. I really feel like the relationship is such a key component to well-being. So to helping people with their change, with the, you know, process of change and health. And really what it comes down to is, you know, there's a science component of nursing, but the art of nursing is where I feel that we really dive into those relationships and where we really get to that change and to that state of being well and meeting that client where they're at, because their definition of health, it could be very different than my definition of health. So I sometimes have to put my own agenda. So I come to the table to talk about something I feel they need to do to better themselves, but that's not always what the client has in mind. So sometimes it's those social determinants of health. Housing might be their number one priority, or food on the table, before we can even move forward to the next steps of healing. And yeah, I think because science is always changing, you know, the need for human relationships and connection, it always has been and always will be a part of humanity. So yeah, I think always striving for that first. I don't know that I can really impact anybody without them feeling that they can trust me in their journey to health.
Awesome, thank you. On to Jen.
I agree with Janelle that this was a really big question. I really had to think about it. Like, what are you looking to get out of this, and what is my actual impact? And so it was really challenging and really made me think. And I came up with something along the same lines as Janelle. My impact is I provide hope. So people who are in pain often come with a lot of baggage with that pain. Like, that pain turns you into somebody totally different at times. And my receptionists can account for this, because they can see the patient when they walk in and they see the patient when they walk out. And it's like they're two different people. And so I feel like my impact is on the individual, and it's providing them hope. I get really excited when I see something wrong with somebody's gait or somebody's squat or the way somebody moves. And people often get puzzled at why I'm so excited, but I get excited because if I can see it, then I can fix it, or I can help to fix it. And so providing them with that hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that we can get them out of this, that this isn't career ending or for an athlete, or activity ending for, you know, that weekend warrior who runs every weekend for their sanity or for their mental well-being. Like, those, we take for granted how movement for some people is so gratifying and freeing, and to be able to keep that person or that patient, that athlete moving and doing what they love to do is huge. You can't measure that. So I think that's my answer, is that my impact is on that individual and keeping them going and keeping them pain-free.
Cool, thank you. Jennifer.
Yeah, my answer is going to be very similar, but almost all of my clients, they've been, as I mentioned, off for a long time, and it's not just about work. It affects like their activities of daily living. It affects them throwing the ball with their kid. It affects their marriage or finances. It's huge. And being able to spend that time with them one-on-one over multiple hours, when normally maybe they've had shorter appointments here and there, but they actually, like, I can listen. I have the time to listen, so they actually feel heard, and we can really help them move forward in a positive way. And so they've been kind of maybe stuck at home for a while, and they want to go back to work or the workforce in some capacity, and they want to, you know, provide for their family again. So it's that kind of hope. And people, a lot of my clients have like depression and anxiety and frustration. And I do hear those kind of comments at the end of it, that they're just grateful that, you know, now they feel that they have more of a voice, and that they feel more optimistic that it's going to get better. Because typically going through this assessment, I can tell WorkSafe, this is exactly what's happening with Jim or, you know, Susan, and it helps. So that's kind of that's my personal gratification, is helping them. But in turn, I really do think it does help them, which is the impact I think FCs can have on people, not just for work though.
Great. Thank you everyone for your answers. On to the next question. What's the strangest thing you've ever done in your job or have experienced in your job?
Yeah, so I mean, I've done a lot of like little things that maybe typically wouldn't be a nursing role. I've worked in small communities as well. So sometimes when you're the only nurse on, you have other roles that you just end up doing. But one really funny thing that came to mind is there was a tourist traveling through, stopped in to wanting help because she had a deer stuck in, or not a deer, sorry, it was a deer mouse stuck in her vehicle, and she was sure of it, and she was so distressed about this. So trying to help her navigate, getting this deer out, what she should be doing. I remember it being something I'd never done before. So in my 11 years of nursing, I hadn't done that. So yeah.
That is very strange.
Yeah.
All right, on to Jen.
Mine's not so much strange as it is embarrassing. And I'm never going to live it down, so I might as well not even try to pretend it didn't happen. So I was with the national team at World Championships for BMX in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. And I had an athlete crash in the corner, and he really took a chunk out of his knee. So of course, my job is to go with him to the medical tent where they have doctors, nurses, all sorts of different specialties that can do things beyond my level of training. So they were stitching up his knee. I'm actually feeling a little faint as I describe it. They were stitching up his knee, and it was so hot in there. There were a number of athletes. It was a really tricky course. There were a number of athletes in there, so it was crowded, and I started to feel lightheaded and faint, and sure enough, boom, I passed out on the ground. All of the nurses leave my athlete, whom they're stitching his knee up, to come and check on me. And all the other athletes, there was a guy with a pneumothorax who had a mask on, and he was laughing and pointing at me. So I was like, okay, maybe he won't say anything. And as soon as we walked back into the main pit, he's like, Jen fainted. So that's kind of the most strange thing that happened to me.
That is very strange as well, yeah. All right, Jennifer.
So I don't know about strangest thing, but I feel like you get to do a lot of interesting things. A big part of doing an FC as part of the referral is WorkSafe will very often ask me to go out to the work site and do a job demands analysis. So I get to go to, I always say it's like going on a school field trip. I've been to every industry, sawmill, any job you can imagine. I've got to go out, and I've got in my back of my car, I've got my steel toe boots and my hard hat. And so one day I'll be literally on the top of a 50-story apartment building that isn't finished yet. So I'm tied on, I'm going up the outside construction elevator, or I'll get to go on tugboats, and the captain all of a sudden in the middle of Fraser River is like, let's do some donuts. So it's not so much strange, it's just kind of cool. So, and that's really helpful because then I go out to see that person's job. So when I'm actually doing their FCE in the clinic, okay, that's what, HVAC has to do. That's what this guy has to do. And it makes it a lot easier to simulate it and have a really clear understanding of what they do and what they have to get back to make a good judgment call. But yeah, so it's interesting. Sometimes it can be strange.
Awesome. Thank you for those answers. Those are really cool and interesting. Okay, so the next question is, what are the most and least rewarding aspects of your job?
For me, I don't always enjoy the paperwork. I just want to be with the clients and I don't always want to be charting or, just reading emails and things like that. But I know it's important, but if I could, that would be something I would probably take out of my job. But I know we need it for continuity of care for the client. So
that's definitely understandable. On to Jen.
I think one of the most rewarding parts of my job is getting the person out of pain. Like, it's awesome when somebody comes back and it's like, oh yeah, I could run 10K without pain, like, and see the joy in their face. But also with athlete successes. We had one of our athletes win the Pan Am Games a few years ago, and this was right before the 2012 Olympics. So it was a pretty big, important competition for him to win. And I can't believe the amount of excitement I felt inside for him when he won that medal. He'd been dealing with, oh gosh, a number of injuries prior to that competition. So I don't know, it was the first time I'd actually felt like I had actually contributed to his success. And I felt the same kind of joy in my heart that he was feeling as well. So that's definitely very rewarding.
That's great to hear. Jennifer?
I think most rewarding is probably, getting a phone call from a client I saw 3 months ago. Sometimes I'll say, keep in touch. If you get a chance, let me know kind of what happens, because I'll write my report, send it off to WorkSafe, and poof, like I never find out what happened. So I'll find out, okay, he's starting school, or he got retrained as HEO, or he's first day back at his old job. So that type of thing's rewarding, finding out that this works and it really did help and they're moving forward. Least rewarding is probably the report writing, even though I actually don't mind it, but they're long reports. So they do take quite a while. But if I had to pick something, I guess that would be the least, because I do prefer the contact time with the clients over the paperwork, but that's not.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. So our next question is, what is the biggest challenge of your job?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes for me it's staying up to date and on top of everything, because there's always things changing, and just trying to stay as current as I can. And sometimes connecting with clients. It's hard to get a hold of clients. So just being creative and finding ways to meet them where they're at and where they want to meet, and how do they want to communicate with you. So sometimes that can be tricky. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a kindergarten immunization, they really don't want their vaccine. So
Yeah.
that might be another one.
That was definitely me.
Yeah.
You're still traumatized?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, you can go now, Jen.
Okay. I think the most challenging part of my job is finding the 100% credibility as the chiropractor. Chiropractic is still quite broad and quite unknown, to be honest, in some of the other medical professions and in the general population. So sometimes I find it really challenging to convince the people that I'm working with, particularly in like multidisciplinary events, like the clinic at the Olympics, for example, that has physio, chiro, massage, medical doctors, orthopedic surgeons. I find it really challenging to explain to them what I know and how I see things, and that it's not that kind of with the traditional thought that goes with chiropractic in past years or past ways. So in fact, one of the first athletes that I started working with, who was an Olympian in 2008 and 2012, actually thought I was a physio for the first 2 years of us working together. So I had a lot of convincing to convince him that I was a chiropractor. He's like, no way, what you do is in chiropractic. So yes, that's my challenging point.
Interesting. All right, Jennifer.
Okay. Challenging part would probably be the clients. The challenging part, but it's also sometimes the most rewarding part, is the clients that are really suffering. Like I've had clients who, walked obviously by accident, but roofers who fell off a roof and their lives are like changed forever. So just helping them kind of work through it as best I can in the short period of time I've got, because they are legitimately have serious life-changing injuries and pain. So that's always a challenge, seeing them have to kind of go through that. Another challenge, I guess, well, maybe because what you actually, Jen, said about chiro versus, massage and whatnot. some people think kin versus OT. Sorry, I know, Sam, you can be OT, but which is fine, which is good. But some people think that in my job, OTs do my job. Well, actually, I mentor OTs to do my job. I teach FCs how to do it to OTs. So I don't want people to think that because you're just a kin, that this isn't a field that you can do well in and be very successful in, because you really can. You don't, being an OT is fantastic. We're going for it. But you don't have to be an OT. You can absolutely be a kin and do well.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer. All right. Our next question. Are there any additional education requirements, degrees, or licenses that are needed for your career?
Well, I mean, yeah, after you get your degree as in nursing, you need to be licensed through the college here in BC. And that's like more to protect the public. And I mean, in community health, I have like so many different like just certificates. One of the big ones is our immunization certification. Like the manual's probably this big and you have to get 100% on the exam. I would say in public and community health, if you come out as a new grad, it still takes you about 6 months to a year to feel like you've got all the appropriate courses, because you take prenatal, postnatal education, breastfeeding courses, your immunization certification, and then there's the school health component. So there's all different just certifications, the naloxone training, like depression. Yeah, there's just lots of little certificates. I couldn't name them all, but.
Yeah, thank you. Jen.
So again, I did a Bachelor of Phys Ed, on which because there wasn't a lot of kin offered when I went through university, which is apparently a long time ago. So then after that, I went into chiropractic college, got a doctorate of chiropractic, and after that, I did a fellowship in chiropractic sports sciences. So I'm a fellow through the Royal College of Chiropractic Sports Sciences of Canada. And so that's what, having that sports specialty is what allows me to work with national teams and travel to the Olympics and other major games. So in order for any practitioner, physio, massage, but our doctors work with a national team like this. And so, yeah, those are, and again, like Janelle was saying, there are lots. Am I cutting out here?
You are a bit, yeah.
Okay, so like Janelle was saying, there are lots of different courses that you can take and training that you can take, depending on what types of techniques that you want to practice.
Okay. All right, thank you. You're just cutting out a bit. I wasn't sure if you were done or not. All right. Jennifer.
Okay, so as you know, I have a degree in kinesiology, but I'm from Ontario, so from Toronto, so I went to the University of Western Ontario. And then since moving to BC, you have to be obviously a member of the BCAK, so I'm a practicing member. You have to do continuing education credits every year. We do a lot of, within my company, progressive rehab and whatnot, we do a lot of in-services. We have a lot of, you take a course, bring it back to us, that type of thing. But also then through Matheson, I took extra certification to do FCEs to be a certified work capacity evaluator. Typically though, if you want to do WorkSafe FCs, you can't right off the get-go. You have to have, I believe, about 2 years of functional testing experience before you can do WorkSafe ones. But you can do FCEs through like LTD, through private companies and things like that to get that experience. But all I needed to go ahead.
Yeah. Awesome. That was really informative. Thank you. Our next question is, how is balance between work and family? How do you manage to balance that? How do you make time for children?
Yeah. I work part-time. I work 3 days a week. But I really have to say that at Stallo Health, I really feel valued as an individual. I feel respected as being outside of work, as being a wife, mother, sister, aunt. That they see that there's more to you than just what you are at work, and I'm really thankful for that. So, like today, I'm able to be at home and do this work while I'm with my son who's sick. So
Awesome. Jen?
Well, this is definitely one of the most challenging aspects of my job. I have 2 young children, and finding balance is really challenging, especially when a lot of travel is involved. So to just give perspective, before I had kids, when I traveled with the track cycling team the year before the 2012 Olympics, I was 100 days on the road that year. So that's a lot of time to be away from a family. And obviously I cannot do that now. So I find myself spending lots of time on airplanes, flying back and forth to many of these competitions, whereas the athletes will stay in Europe for a month. Last year they were there for 8 weeks, and I think I flew back and forth 5 times in between. Now, I was very fortunate on this trip that I was able to bring one of my kids on a trip each. So I thought that was really valuable in empowering them and showing them what I do when I'm away and why it's important to me. And, just so that they understand and can cope when I'm away next time. So, it's really cool to have them see me on TV at the Olympics, or when they're watching racing online, they can understand again what I'm doing when I'm gone. So yeah, I was really lucky to be able to share that with them.
That's really cool. Thank you. All right, Jennifer.
Yeah, I've always said my job, well, before I did FCs, I used to do, I was on programs, I did one-to-one exercise therapy, things like that. But I've been doing FCs since Sam was about 2 or 3, so a long time. I'm going to date myself here, but many years. But I've always said it's the best mom job ever, because I am a contractor and I book my clients myself according to, I have to take into consideration the client's schedule, but basically it's kind of up to me when I see the client. As long as I see them within 2 weeks of the referral, then I'm good. And then I've got a week to write the report, which I write from home. So I've been on every field trip I've wanted to go on. Been to the pumpkin patch every single year. I've taken their birthdays off every year so I can bring them lunch to school. So it's been a really, really good balance. So I worked more part-time when they were younger, but now that they're older, they're both in university, I just kind of come and go as needed, but I still get to work from home. I get to do this. So yeah, I took today off to work from home so I could participate. Yeah, so it's been very, very good. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Next question is, what is the biggest myth about your job?
I think a lot of people think that, a lot of our job is poking people, like immunizing, vaccinating all day. But as I've explained in some of the earlier questions, we do a lot more than just the poking all day. And because it's so, another component is it's so different from hospital nursing that I don't think people realize how different of a knowledge base, you have the core of nursing, but there's definitely a different knowledge base that comes with this type of nursing.
Cool. Jen?
Yeah, backcracker. That's all I have to say. Everybody thinks that's all chiropractors do is crack backs. But in fact, as I've described, our knowledge base and our scope of practice is much bigger than that. We can treat any joint, many different injuries, use many different techniques. So yeah, the biggest myth I think is that we just work with the spine.
Yeah. Jennifer?
I think the biggest myth is that all FCs are like cookie cutter. Everyone's going to get the same assessment, when it's really not, which is actually why I'm still finding it interesting all these years later, because every client's different, every injury is different. Everyone's like, oh, I had the same injury. Not really. They're all a little bit different. And every job is different. I can have 2 roofers are two, anything really, but like, or two, I have a lot of nurses or carries, but this nurse might work in the ER, this one might be in community. So a different job, even though it's still nurses. So every assessment is geared towards that person, that injury, that job. It's different. So it's probably a biggest misconception that an FC is the same for everybody. It's really not. There's some basic things that are standardized that we do for pretty much everybody, but then you get to still be very creative.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Next question. This is our last question for the career information section, by the way. So this is, where do you turn for mentorship, or if you guys even turn for mentorship in your career field?
Yeah, my colleagues, like my fellow nursing coworkers, we have community health workers, so I turn to them for for cultural pieces, for relationship building. My supervisor, First Nations Health Authority, is a support for us for resources. The BC Center for Disease Control as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Jen?
Yeah, I have some pretty amazing mentors, and I feel like mentorship is very important in this field, in any field, but in this field as well. So I'm super lucky to have the contact with colleagues like from the polyclinics at the Olympics. Like we have surgeons, we have ATs, we have RNs, we have PTs, we have RMTs. So everybody has a little bit different training and a little bit different skill set, that it's amazing what you can bring from those different practitioners to make it your own. So yeah, it's you just have to look around you. There's so many mentors. You can learn something from everyone. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, Jennifer?
Yeah, for me, it's basically my colleagues, my coworkers at Progressive. We all basically do similar jobs, and we'll have in-services, as I said, and I can just phone any of them up, and we'll at the office, we'll just kind of, bounce ideas off each other, or, hey, I saw this client, I had a question. It's basically, we're just all support each other.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next question is, what is the outlook for your career? Do you guys see the jobs in your field changing over the next 5 years or so?
I mean, I think sometimes with healthcare and nursing, there's obviously government, whatever government is in, and what how that trickles down for funding, and what the projection is for where they want healthcare to go. But I think there has been more of a push to keep people out of hospital and to keep people at home and in the community more. So I'm hopeful that there'll be more nursing positions in community, and overall I think there's a shortage of nurses generally speaking, but yeah, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head.
Yeah, thank you. Jen?
Yeah, I think it's a good profession to get into. I think as people are aging, and again, that stigma of what chiropractors are is changing. I think that it's fortunate for chiros to get into the field, to be seeing more people as we gain that trust, and that education piece is coming out as well. So yeah, I feel like there's only more opportunity for chiropractic in the future.
True. All right, Jennifer?
FCs have been going for a couple decades that I've been doing them, and I don't think they're going to go away. Unfortunately, I have job security, but everyone keeps getting hurt. But the thing that might have changed a little bit, I know ICBC has made some changes that might affect like some of the billing and whatnot for FCs, but other than that, I don't really see it. Really, I plan on doing this until I retire, so I don't see any big changes coming up. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. All right. Next question is Is there a shortage or an oversupply of people in your career today?
Yeah, I think nursing has been a shortage for many years now. You always hear about short staffing in hospitals. Community, we're not necessarily an urgent, you know, we're not viewed as urgent care. So is there a shortage there? I don't know. I guess it depends on how you view it. I think there is. I think we could do a lot more in prevention if we had more nurses in the community. So yeah, but I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Jen?
Yeah, I know that like our colleges that support us do a lot of research, and they don't know all the numbers. This isn't something that I kind of keep up with, but I feel like as that, again, perspective of the public shifts, that and we see more chiros, I think that we're matching that at this point. There's only one chiropractic school in Canada, and they graduate about 150 people a year, but I know that there is western states in just south of the border. So yeah, in terms of how many they're pumping out, I wouldn't say that it's an oversupply.
Yeah. All right, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think a little bit of a shortage I know right now I could use some help. Anyone out there? I am pretty slammed with work. So I'd say that if people wanted to do FCs, that there would be work for them. I don't think it's a drastic shortage, but right now I think we're a little short. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. Our next question is pretty basic question. Why did you choose this career? What made you want to go into this career? Why did you want to be this?
Yeah, with my own experiences with some health issues, and I just, yeah, I have a passion for prevention, and I really love child development, and I really love that the earlier we can do something, the better we have an impact on the health of a child. So I really love walking alongside pregnant women and early postpartum moms, just to help them navigate that very vulnerable time in their life. Yeah, so I'm just passionate. I love helping people.
Awesome, that's great to hear. Jen?
Yeah, my career choice came from my passion of movement and sports and athletes, and trying to put that all together. I was a varsity athlete in university. I was a swimmer, and the chiro who was assigned to our team at that point did this technique called ART, active release technique. And at that time, it was a chiropractic technique, and he used it to help a shoulder injury that I'd had. And I was back in the pool swimming best times the next day or a few days later from my memory. And so, and that's when it clicked. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that has that immediate effect on people, and can get them moving again. And so he was like, well, you got to go to chiropractic school. So I applied the night before the applications were due and magically got in.
Wow.
Awesome, that's really cool. Jennifer?
I started my kin career as personal trainer, managed a fitness center. So I did that for a number of years, but then I got the opportunity to kind of switch over to rehab and work with injuries. And that was really great. I was doing the occupational rehab programs and the one-to-one exercise therapy, so like personal training for injuries. But then I heard about FCs through a physio friend of mine. And I just thought this was going to be a really, really good match, because I like to spend, quality time getting to know someone, which I absolutely get to do with an FC one-on-one. The hours, as I said, were really great. I got to work as a contractor. Have to say, money's good. So that helps. But yeah, so it just all kind of fell into play. It was good work-home life balance. Financially, it worked. I found it interesting. Yeah, been doing it ever since. I know the kids, Sam will attest. They always say, yeah, when someone asks me what I do and I start blurbing about it, like, yeah, no, we know, Mom, you love your job.
Mm-hmm.
But I do, yeah.
Awesome, that's what we want to hear. That's great. Next question is, What are the 3 things that you wish you did as a student to better prepare yourself for the career that you chose? Oh, Janelle, I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I lost my video. I didn't know what happened. I had a hard time with this question. I was, I was trying to think back. I mean, that was 11 years ago, and what could I have done better? I honestly, I think just experience is what helped me. But yeah, reaching out, finding someone that you can go to, looking for that person as a mentor, that you can go to for help, and don't be afraid to ask for that help,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't know it all, even though you've completed your degree. Yeah, you don't know it all right away. There's still so much more learning to do, and experience really has helped me along the way. And watching, like observing, the more seasoned nurses, and looking for those little tips and little techniques that they would do.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. Jen?
I found this one a hard one to answer as well, because the points that I thought of, I'm like, what did I think I did do this. Like, but you always can expect more from yourself. So one of the things definitely that may or may not have I've been able to change was, again, the kinesiology wasn't as prevalent when I was in university. And this was like a long time ago. We're going to say like 20 years ago or more that I was in university. So it was more phys ed based. And so kinesiology was still kind of newer and upcoming in that as a field itself. So I think I would have been better prepared for chiro school had I had more of a kinesiology background. Again, one of the other things I wish I'd spent more time in the anatomy lab. Like, knowing what I know now, I would love to go back and kind of figure it out again, having the knowledge that I do now. So maybe spending more time in the anatomy lab, or spending more time studying that type of thing to apply to like the functional anatomy that I do now. And again, I had mentors as well, but I feel like I had really great mentors, and that's why I ended up where I am, is because of the leadership and the mentorship that those people have shown me. And again, I also had specific experience, but I had some pretty awesome experiences when I was younger that have exposed me to the world of sport chiropractic, which is why I delved more into it. So yeah, those would be the things that I would have maybe done more of, or done differently, done better.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm not sure what I would have done too much differently as a student, but because I didn't know when I was a student that my career existed. So I guess what I would have done is try to find out more when I was in my kin program what I can do as a kin, which is why this is fantastic that the kin students now get to hear from people like yourselves and myself about what opportunities are out there. Yeah, I guess asking more about what I can even do as a kin. So when I graduated, I'm like, oh, well, I went and worked at the YMCA because that's what kins do. Yeah, but I guess finding out more what's out there.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thank you. What are some common mistakes that people make when choosing the career that you're in?
Yeah, I think there's so much giving in nursing that there's something called compassion fatigue. And so just, recognizing that when you're maybe not feeling like you have that energy or that drive to give anymore, and that maybe you need to fill your own bank and do some more self-care, so that way that you have that mental and emotional and just well-being to then care for other people. I think there's a lot of burnout in nursing.
Yeah, thank you for that. Jen?
I think, kind of going back to just knowing how hard it would be to give myself credibility as a chiropractor. The people that I'd surrounded myself with, the mentors and such, were so one practice, their philosophy was one type of chiropractic, that I really wasn't sure that the other philosophies existed, and how prevalent they were, and how that's what made the news, and how that's what most people knew as chiropractic. So I wish, maybe I didn't want to know that, or I might have changed fields, but that's something that I found really challenging when I first started, was like, oh my gosh, how do I explain that what my philosophy is, and how I view what I do, and try to challenge that other model that's been so prevalent in the history of chiropractic.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Jennifer?
I don't really have much of an answer for this one, so it might be the first pass of the panel. Other than, KINs can absolutely do this. Just make sure you get the correct training after your degree.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And now on to our final question. If you could leave us with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, I think just be open-minded, that there's that one view maybe of nursing or of a chiropractor, kinesiologist, but there's, I think be open-minded, that there's many paths within any of those. So explore that and see what is your fit.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. Jen?
Yeah, Janelle, that's great advice. My advice is that make sure you love it. Like, you're passionate about it. It makes you excited to wake up and go to work every single day, because it doesn't feel like work if you love it. And I know that's so cliche and everybody says it, but it's so true. It is really true. Like, you've got to be willing to put in the hard days, but it's for the greater good, and you're going to come out on top of the other side.
Absolutely, yes. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you. Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm gonna be a bit redundant. Absolutely, just kind of do what you love. I get up in the morning and I never mind going to work. Just whatever you're interested in, just kind of make that your career, and it just kind of happens, and you'll do well. Yeah. Oh, and one other thing is probably just, some people, like, I guess it's a mistake some people make, is don't prejudge your clients before you meet them. Like, you'll get a lot of information. Like, I'll get 400 pages of medical stuff and comments from lots of people, but just wait till you meet them, because just don't be biased at all. And most people are not, but that's the big thing, is that they really, really just want you to listen to them and acknowledge them, and not judge them before you meet them.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. Stand there?
Yep.
There you
Alright, so transfer this back over. You can kind of be in the screen.
I can be in the screen.
We can share now. Okay, so just to wrap up, I just want to mention to anyone watching, if you do have any further questions for our panelists, you can message or email KINSA, and we can connect you with them or answer that question for you. So then, on behalf of all the faculty, staff, and students at UFV Kinesiology Department, we'd like to thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.